We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
What we do not do is spy unlawfully on Americans.
We are leaving in 2014, period. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
You are listening to Biting the Bullet with Luke and Typo.
I think I need a... Are you recording? Are you recording?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I need to pour some bourbon for this episode because I don't know. This is the beginning of the end, buddy. we may not make it to living where we want to in the South.
Dude, if I die and well, I don't know, dude. I was thinking about this. If like I'm in the middle of America, so maybe I'll have some time. A little bit more than other people, because I feel like this, if anywhere gets nuked, it's the cities. So I was thinking
but you're close enough to St. Louis. But at the same time, why nuke St. Louis? It'll just kill itself anyways.
I feel like mostly if Russia's gonna nuke, it's gotta be mostly at like DC.
Well,
like,
it's gotta be all right. Let's put ourselves in Putin's shoes real quick.
All right.
If you had to nuke the United
States, I'm invading Ukraine.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, we got to stop the Americans before they come in. And you're like, I'm trying to affect the United States in the strongest way possible.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm gonna use nukes. You know, it's like, well, they're a nuclear power. I'm a nuclear power. What would you do? I think I would go New York, DC. Because you can hit New York and affect like 17 states because they're all like 50 meters wide.
Yeah, New York would definitely be one.
You hit New York City. It's just fucking glass now. And then Washington, D.C., because fuck them. But you have to send multiple nukes to each of these. You know, you got a limited number. And, you know, whatever it is called, the Iron Fortress, or no, that's fucking... The Iron Dome is Israel's. What's ours called? What's our ICBM fucking ICBMI fucking? Isn't it called? It's some fucking Star Wars themed fucking bullshit. Our defense against ICBM.
The Death Star.
I think it is called. It's called something like that. It's called something crazy. I don't remember what it is right now. I'll look it up while we're doing this. But you know, you gotta throw a couple at each city. You know. Because if you don't, like, it's kind of a waste because they take up so much, like all the cities are built on top of each other. So you go to New York, but you have to throw like 10 at New York, right? And then or more, maybe you go 100. I don't know how many nukes they got. You know, you go 100 New York, 100 DC.
Yeah, and also I was talking to someone that actually kind of knows a little bit something about nukes.
Oh yeah. Well, hold on. So let me finish mine, and then you can come obliterate my fucking.
Oh, okay. It's something that big, but it's something that like I'll just add that that the nuclear missiles are actually aimed at each other's nuclear missiles in other countries. So the theory behind that is that if they can blow up our nuclear missiles first, then they can save themselves some like not getting hit by nuclear missiles.
Yeah.
But then also do a significant amount of damage to that country because you just exploded one of their nuclear missiles.
Yeah. But the thing is like our nuclear missiles, for the most part, from what I know of, they're not in places that are strongly populated. So you'd fuck shit up. Because it's like 2 nuclear bombs going on. Well, actually, I don't even think the nuclear bomb goes off because like the other one doesn't go off because you need That's
I know
too
nothing.
sciencey for me.
I know nothing about a
From
nuclear bomb and
from
how
what
it works.
I know about nuclear bombs.
From my expertise in the Marine Corps, I know exactly
as a radio operator.
I know exactly how a nuclear bomb works.
As a radio operator. No, I think, well, it has to split the atom, and there's a mechanism in there. But I don't know. But there's a mechanism in there that splits the atom. That's what causes the reaction, from how my basic, very, 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 very basic understanding of how a nuclear bomb works. So I think you have to like actually activate it for it to go. I don't think you can just explode another nuclear bomb with a nuclear bomb, but who knows? I don't know. Anyways, I would go New York, make it glass. You throw like 150 at New York. And then you go, obviously, DC.
I'm all right with that.
You obviously go DC, right? You're trying to cause panic and fucking destruction. So you go DC, and then you leave Florida alone because half of them are voting for Russia anyways.
Yeah.
And then, so like Florida's good. You might go after Texas. You might go after a couple Texas cities, even though they're kind of pro Russia at this point, but they watch, somewhere else in the United States get
pro Russia.
They watch somewhere else in the United States get nuked. They're gonna be like, "Oh, America," and they'll come off of that pretty quickly, I think. So you got to, you probably go Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. You got to have 150 per, but some of those cities are kind of close. I think Houston and Dallas are only like 3 hours away from each other. So maybe 150 along that stretch. I mean, you try to even it out, see which one gets through. And then obviously LA. If you don't go after LA, you're not the Putin for me. So LA has to go. San Diego, no reason to bomb it. If LA falls, San Diego falls, but San Diego's a bunch of Mexicans. Like, they're just chilling down there. They just hopped the border. You don't fuck with them. You don't want to bring Mexico into this. So you leave San Diego alone, but you glass the fuck out of LA. And then you go for Denver. You glass the fuck out of Denver.
Why Denver?
Because it's got the fucking Illuminati airport in it. And that's where the president's going to be. So
dude, that's right.
Bomb the fuck out of Denver, specifically the airport. And then the rest, I think you go after the nuclear bombs in our country. Like, if you have any left over after that, you go after the nuclear launch sites. And I feel like that's the only way.
In Pearl Harbor.
Because just to remind you where we're coming from.
I actually don't know if like Pearl Harbor is like still a really big base, or if it's like not even that big anymore, but it would just be hilarious if they still fucking.
I don't think Pearl Harbor itself is as big of a Navy base. I mean, honestly, it probably is, because the United States loves to build US Navy on other United States gravestones. So
that's true.
There's probably a huge, well, no, actually, I think I've been to Hawaii, and when I went there, I think you go to Pearl Harbor and it's basically all just a memorial now, but there were still some ships in the bay and shit like that. But I don't know if it's actually the base.
Did you see it when you like flew by?
I saw, no, I went down there for my parents getting married, remember?
Oh, you were actually at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's on one of the islands. I think it's on the main island. I'm pretty sure it's on the main island. Maybe it's not, and I just went to the Pearl Harbor Memorial. It's not even on the same island. I don't fucking know, dude. It's fucking Hawaii. It's basically a different country.
That's true. It's way out there.
Yeah. I don't really remember. I was 2.5 years into the Marine Corps, I think, at that point. So I was drunk the entire time and don't remember a whole lot except the stupid shit that we would do. But yeah, that's how I would fucking, I mean, yeah, you hit Pearl Harbor once or twice, or fuck it. You'll set off the volcanic. Oh, and then you hit fucking Wyoming. You hit Wyoming because there's a super volcano underneath Yellowstone. So you might as well get that fucking started as soon as possible. Because if you're fucking, you hitting the nuclear launch sites don't work, mutually assured destruction is inevitable, because then the US is gonna fucking send them right back.
Oh, it's gonna be dark winters, dude.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so then you might as well, like, instead of us just having a dark winter from nuclear fucking radiation, you might as well give us an active super volcano that hasn't erupted in like 30,000 years, and give us the volcanic ash first too. We're just going to destroy the whole world. If I'm sending nukes at this point to any other country, I'm okay with dying. And I'm pretty sure that's where Putin is at, because he has said multiple times in one interview that
we're all gonna die.
He just said, what was that? What did I say earlier? He said multiple times, he was like, he just said, we know there's not going to be any winners and we're okay with this. Like, that is the scariest thing for a world nuclear power to say. If somebody says that and they have access to a lot of fucking nukes, especially somebody like Putin who doesn't have any restrictions. I'm not saying the United States president has restrictions. They do, but I'm not saying they're like incredibly strong restrictions. But Putin literally has zero checks and balances on that. And he's just like, yeah, we're going to go to war with the Ukraine, possibly Poland. We're going to take the Chechens and just fuck up everybody. The Florida man of the Eastern Bloc, and just send them into the Eastern Bloc, the rest of the Eastern Bloc. And then on live TV say, this is because of America multiple times over and over again. And the fact that he has some sadistic, fantasy of joining NATO in 2000, and Bill Clinton took that away from him. So now he's just ready to fuck everybody up at this point. And, ages of United States horrible intervention into Eastern Europe. And he's like, there's not going to be a whole lot of winners, and I'm okay with that. And we're okay with that. We've made our decision. And that's scary. That's scary. That's fucking scary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I just honestly, it's just weird because, like, I don't know. It was like we were coming out of COVID, kind of. Things were kind of like going back to normal, like
World
everything.
War III.
Yeah, and then it's just like the fucking scariest thing imaginable. It's like, this is worse than governments locking down people. It's like there's a nuclear power and he's getting aggressive. I mean, he has a lot of nukes, and he's getting aggressive on. And I think this is kind of like the inevitable that was going to happen with this whole thing in Russia. I mean, like the way that America has like pushed all the NATO things around it. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy because we were always focused on like Middle East stuff, and like
we talked about Ukraine a couple times. We did, but it wasn't like the main center because we were in war with the Middle East. Like, basically, that's how it was. Well, so it's like we didn't really focus on the Eastern, what we're doing everywhere else.
Yeah, well, like, I've heard like other foreign policy people talk about like how like this Russia is way more important, but I was always like, like I would listen.
It's not as
to like
exciting.
I was like, this is not as exciting. I just don't see it, and it's like because we grew up in the war on terror. Yeah, like that's what everyone, like at least most people in the military, when they thought of war, it was always with. It's just, I mean, it's war, but it's like, yeah, we just drone bomb some places here nowadays, mix troops here and out, and it's like no one's really actually. There was a long period of time where there was no violence, like no combat action was going on.
Yeah, there's been long periods of time throughout the war.
Yeah, but it's so, I don't know, totally different mindset, because you're not thinking like, okay, the terror, like we know that like the terrorists aren't going to be able to kill all of us. Like the terrorists just can't, like they're not that big of a
Russia
threat.
Can. We've talked about this too before, where it's like Russia and China are the two places the United States should never get in any kind of war or conflict with. Not because I don't think that we can win. I think there's a possibility if we fight a straight up war, but that's the problem, is straight up. If we fight a straight up war, we could possibly win. Like I have more belief in us winning that than winning the war on terror. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
I think that's obvious. And I think Russia knows that too. Like, I think they know. they know, like, if they got in a war, I mean,
it would be horrible. It would be
and you
horrible.
would probably end up losing because you're just not as big. I mean, I don't know how long America could hold on, like, economically if it became that kind of like war of attrition, but like it would just be terrible, like the worst thing ever.
Well, and it would be fought over there. It wouldn't be fought over here. And that's the biggest thing.
That's
so
true.
like they'd be able to hold out. They'd probably be able to hold out their cities, but we'd essentially castrate them. I feel like that would be the only way to win, is you'd essentially castrate them until they're just like, we're just going to stay in our little area of Moscow kind of deal. And then
Yes.
if anything else goes bad, like goes down, we'll just let them, as long as nothing else goes down, you just let them have Moscow kind of thing. But for the most part, it probably wouldn't be fought on the United States shores. Like it just wouldn't. It wouldn't be fought in the United States. Like people aren't, you're not going to get through Mexico. You're not going to get through Canada to come to us. Like and everybody would, and that's the thing that Putin calls out in his fucking speech that predicts horrible consequences for mankind, is that he's like, America has pushed their people to continue to do this, talking about NATO and all the Western European states. He's like, it's the West's fault. It's the West's fault. It's the West's fault. And now I'm lashing out. And it's like, I think what you and I and Cole were talking about this, and we're like, it's fucking true. It's fucking true. I understand his position. I'm not saying I agree with it, and I don't think killing people in the Ukraine is going to solve it. But you said it. It's like a caged dog or a cornered dog is going to lash out eventually. And I was like, the worst part is, and I think I said it right after that, and it was like, yeah, but then the dog gets put down immediately after because everybody's like, he doesn't belong in a civilized world. And it's, even though it may be justified in the sense, because you cornered him, backed him into a corner. And he's like, fuck this, I'm out. Like, I'm fighting my way out of this. And it just sucks. The whole thing fucking blows dick. It's not a good situation. And I think we have some of the most incompetent people in charge of the nation right now, ever. Like some of the most, and it's like a fucking a play right out of the playbook of FDR. Like, oh shit, we're sucking. My economic stimulus shit is sucking. Let's start a world war.
Yeah. Well, I think it's too, like him playing it now, I think it is a great opportunity in America, because Biden looks really weak by our country, and like he, like on a public stage, he looks really weak, and no one has faith in him. Like his poll numbers are like terrible. So it's like anything this guy does, and like half the country thinks, I mean, a decent amount of the country thinks he stole the election. And it's like, why would we go fight a war for this guy? And the conservative side is just a little bit more military friendly, and they're the ones that are like, yeah, no, we don't want to do this. And it just seems like a really good time for, if he was going to do something, it could be now, and he could get away with it. Because I think Trump would be more willing to be militaristic, and I think Obama could have been more militaristic as well, like if he wanted to, if Putin tried this. But I don't think Biden is in like a political position to do anything like aggressive right now.
I have an alternative.
Oh,
so you think back to when Trump was in office and the Democratic candidacy was going on, and then you had like 4 or 5 instances throughout the Democratic Party and like 1 or 2 outside of it where the Democratic Party was getting linked to spies in China, right?
Yeah.
Few. One of the big ones was Swalwell, right?
Yeah.
He was fucking a Chinese spy. Xi Jinping, isn't that his name? Xi Jinping, fucking the CCP's fucking president or king or whatever the fuck he wants to call himself.
Yeah.
Isn't it like Xi Jinping or some shit like that?
Yeah, he's the leader of the Communist Party. I don't know what.
Xi Jinping or some, whatever the fuck. He wanted, like, everything was pointing to he wanted Biden. Like people said constantly that they want Biden, they want Biden, they want Biden. It's China. China wants Biden. And during that time, Putin came out and said the Democratic or the Democrats in the United States are closer to the communists in Russia, are the closest thing in America to the communists in Russia, the Democratic Party. He said that multiple times throughout the Democratic candidate race too. So I kind of think Putin wanted Biden. And maybe this is the only time that it's all fucking connected. And then it goes back to Ukraine, where it's like you got people fucking in government office that are engaged in or have, children involved in gas trading in the Ukraine, gas companies in the Ukraine. It's like Pelosi, fucking Biden, and a couple other ones. I don't know if the Pelosi one is verified yet, but anyways, regardless. And it's like Biden being there is the only person to engage in this war. And it's just a giant war game for the same people that have been at top since they've been at top forever. Like it doesn't have to be like a Putin thing or a Xi Jinping thing or a Biden thing. It's just the powers that be that have always been the powers that be that put these people in place that we say are part of in every decision that goes on at the top, whether it's, the world bankers or whatever else it is. This is a way to line the pockets. And it's just another fucking war game where poor people have to lose their lives for no goddamn reason. And I'm not saying that's the fucking truth, but man, at this point, it was like a perfect storm. We were arguing in 2019 about, how police brutality is really shitty and the wars in Afghanistan are a direct threat to our freedoms. And not saying that they aren't or that those things aren't important, but then it was like COVID regime came in and we got fucking locked down. And it's like, right, like you said earlier, right at the end of what it seems like to be the end because they can't hold on to the shtick anymore. It's like World War III. Let's fucking go. Let's start something else. And it's like the constant turmoil. It seems, I don't believe in coincidences. And it's just like, all right, this shit doesn't add up. And I'm not saying that they planned to have a World War III and they were like calling each other on their fucking sidekick flip phones at 3:00 in the morning, like 16-year-old girls between Putin, Xi Jinping, and Biden. But fuck, man, it seems like it's like a written down plan that somebody has. And it's like, 2022, let's get things started, guys. You guys know the drill.
Yeah, dude, it's kind of crazy. Like we were saying, we always focus on the Middle East stuff, but like, I mean, I think a lot of like our parents and stuff growing up, or like they were always kind of worry of the Soviet Union, like worry of,
well, they grew up during
Russia.
the Cold War. Yeah,
they grew up like, and like my concept, there was like no concept of that, like in my mind growing up. Zero. Like I never really heard it talked about. And then people would mention the Cold War and I'd be like, what the fuck? I don't even know what Cold War means. Like, what
happened in the 80s? Fuck off.
Yeah.
Grow up, old man.
What's that movie with Patrick Swayze? They made a remake of Red Dawn. Like my dad showed me that today. He's like, I bet you don't even know what that is. I was like, Dad, I watched that movie with you. Like, why do you like? Obviously, I know this movie, but he always does that about like anything that's in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know. Like, it just still blows my mind that like, oh shit, we have to remember that there's this nuclear power that's like not happy with us.
Well, and it's like our entire life though, it's been like Russia just does Russia things. Like they haven't been overtly aggressive, at least towards the United States. They've been kind of just like, the United States is bullshit. I just want everybody to know that the United States is bullshit. And then they just do little things like that.
There was that incident in, like, I think it was in Syria where like I think our artillery, or maybe it was an airstrike, I can't remember, but it accidentally hit Russian troops.
Yes. And everybody was like, why are Russians in Syria?
Yeah. Why are Russians even in Syria? But like that kind of like blew over. like kind of just went out and it was okay. And I was like, dude, we just murdered their soldiers. Like that's
like we
pretty
bombed
risky.
Russian troops. Yeah, and it was like crazy. And it was like, why are the Russians in Syria? And then it's like, why are the United States bombing Russians in Syria? And then today I sent you that fucking screenshot that I took. It was like, I think it was from CNN, and it was like the airstrikes that have happened in the last 48 hours. And I think it was from yesterday. What's the date today? The day is the 25th. Yeah, so it was from yesterday, and it was from from the 22nd to the 24th. And it was I'll just pull it up real quick, but it was obviously the Ukraine, and it had like a crazy fucking a number of airstrikes, which some of the videos coming out of the Ukraine right now is insane. It's horrible. It's incredibly sad. And it just sucks. Like, it sucks. And don't get me wrong, this is like, we've been making fucking a shit ton of jokes about this. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not fucking acting like I'm all higher than thou or almighty or whatever like that. Making a shit ton of jokes about this. Our fucking group chat, especially with fucking Cole, it's hilarious. But in the back of my mind, I'm just like, fuck, dude, like this is crazy ass shit right now. I'll pull up that picture though.
Yeah, dude. Like, well, I talked about this too, but like this is like the Middle East. It was harder to get like video footage. Not a lot of these like literally poor villages that were being attacked and hurt. Like a lot of them don't have cell phones and stuff. Like third world countries, it's just harder to have, like modern technology everywhere. Well, Ukraine has a little bit more, a lot more.
Yeah.
And so you just get all these videos from people, and you never really got to see it like live. It's like watching war live. Like I mean, before, like they could, but this is like raw war too.
Yeah.
Because
it's conventional
edited war. It can't be edited through or anything. Like it's like raw footage, and it's like, holy shit, man. I think it's gonna escalate out of nowhere. Yeah.
So there's obviously, so the first one is, it's a picture of, Eastern Europe all the way down Middle East, and then basically the northern half of Africa. And it shows the Ukraine doesn't have Russian airstrikes in Ukraine. That's pretty obvious. There was Israeli airstrikes in Damascus in Syria. What the fuck? 37 Saudi airstrikes in Yemen. It's the only one with a number on it. So the reason why we know an exact number is kind of fucking weird to me, when we don't know the exact number in any of the other places that are listed on this. Just weird. Just a fucking observation. And then a US airstrike in Somalia. So while Ukraine and Russia are going at it, the US is bombing Somalia.
Yeah.
Somalia, the place that is ran by literal clan leaders, 12 families, and their capital is what? Mogadishu? Isn't that what it is? Mogadishu, Somalia? I think that's correct.
I don't know.
It has a small part-time government that is basically just a dictatorship in itself. And then the rest of the provinces are literal just families running the province. And they have their own fucking laws and their own fucking rules. And they're part of a corrupt government cabal in Mogadishu. I'm pretty sure it's Mogadishu. But anyways, it's just like, why is the US bombing Somalia right now? What the fuck? And I mean, I bet you if I could call Scott Horton right now and be like, hey, why did US bomb Somalia this week? He'd tell me exactly why, when the bomb dropped, and how many tons it had in it. But I don't have that opportunity. It's just fucking wild. Like, all right, so why is Israel bombing Damascus? I mean, besides to genocide the people that are there, I don't really understand anymore the violence that Israel puts on either in Gaza Strip or Syria. Like, I just don't really get it at this point. I think if you want to be a holier than thou religious nation, I just feel like the amount of people you murder on a daily basis has to be less than zero, and it's not. So I don't get that. And then why the US is bombing Somalia doesn't make any sense to me. I don't really know what it's about right now. And then the final one, 37 airstrikes by the Saudis. in, what did I say? Where were they bombing? Yemen? Yeah, Yemen, where there's a fucking genocide going on because the US keeps backing the goddamn Saudis. And then Ukraine fucking up, or Russia fucking up Ukraine, or Ukraine fucking up Russia. I don't know. It depends. There's conflicting reports on how many people have died. I don't really know what that all is all about. But if they lost 3,000 in the last 48 hours, that's almost more than the United States lost at 20 years of war against Iraq, Afghanistan, and fucking everywhere else we were fighting in the Middle East. Because I think we lost 3,600 or something like that total in the 20 years, but we lost like 7,000 in suicides for veterans. But that's besides the point too.
Yeah, dude. I was gonna say that like the whole like pressure on like Putin, I think, is a lot of the reason why he's like pushing forward. Yeah, and I think like on like it's so crazy when like these little minuscule rulers all over the place kind of like get in the way, but it's like, yeah, we shouldn't be doing any of that at all, because everything should be going into not war with Russia, because that's way worse than anything else. And I don't know. I think that I don't know what's gonna happen, dude. And it's kind of freaky because you just don't know what to expect next, because like you kind of never expected this. But I kind of think things are gonna like de-escalate, because I mean, when America invaded Iraq, and that was like huge, it was big, it was like crazy, there was a lot of people against it, a lot of people for it, but it happened. And then everyone thought it was going to be like this crazy like insanity would start happening, but then everything was fine, and that became the status quo. The US was in Iraq. We've been in Iraq for 19 years now.
You think the status quo is just Russia being in Ukraine?
Maybe maybe that will be the status quo. Like everyone, like we freak out now, then everything starts to calm down, and it's like, okay, Russia's in Ukraine, and maybe I think that's gonna be like that for a while.
Yeah, I kind of think that's a good point. The other thing is the cities that they attacked, which are Kiev and I can't say the other one. It's like Keluevo or some shit like that. I don't remember what the other one's name is either. But the two cities, there's like the places that they attacked, and Chernobyl. They attacked Chernobyl as well. Russia did. So they're like three or four places. Well, and all right. So then I got on yesterday. I was just fucking running through Twitter and different threads and shit like that. But they think possibly that the Ukrainians have building nuclear weapons in Chernobyl, and it wouldn't be able to be traced because of the radiation that's already fucking there. And that's why people think Russia invaded Chernobyl. And then there's some biolabs in each of the US backed biolabs in each of the other cities that were attacked by Russia, which is another like odd coincidence. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't fucking believe in coincidences. I think they probably finally had enough of evidence for themselves. Maybe what they think is there isn't there, like our fucking evidence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. But it's regardless, they have enough evidence for themselves to be like, all right, they're gonna try and kill us eventually, so we're going to strike out before they strike us. And like I said, not on their side at all, but but completely understanding in a way. Like, I just fucking get it. But I feel really bad for the Ukrainian people that are literally ethnically Russian and have wanted to be a part of Russia for quite a long time, because they've been segregated from the rest of the population in Ukraine, or at least discriminated against on the very basis. And I'm not saying that happened to all of them, but it's happened to quite a few. There's plenty of stories out there showing it and saying it, and visible differences and the difference of the cities and things like that. And it's whatever. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a fucking Ukraine expert on the geopolitics of the area. But at the same time, it's like, there's people like, it was literally part of Russia. What, 25 years ago, 30 years ago?
It would be 79, I think.
Was it 79? I thought it was like 93.
80. No,
because they tried to get it back in 93. That's what it was, huh? They try to get it back in 93.
No, the Soviet Union was still a thing when they gave it a piece of Russia to Ukraine. And the reason that it was okay for them to do that is because they weren't really giving it up. So they just gave it over as like a deal. And it was like for one of their leaders at the time, it was how he got elected. For some reason, he needed to make that deal to the Ukrainian to secure
land
power.
border.
Yeah, it was some shady business political thing in Soviet Union I read about. So everyone there is like, you know, they're Russian cultured, they speak Russian.
Yeah, they're ethnically Russian.
It's like if someone here in Texas, you know, like a piece of Texas got taken off, that weird square part on Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's just Oklahoma now.
Yeah, they're like, you know what, dude, this is retarded on the map, but we're fixing this. And they just give it back. And then people, like the people there would be like, I'm not a part of Oklahoma. Like, what the fuck? I'm a Texan. Like, what the fuck? Even if the government just changes the map a little bit, they would still call themselves Texans. Like, that culture's not gone from there. And that's the same thing that on that side of the Ukraine is like they're culturally more aligned with now. And it's not to say that all of them want to go back to Russia.
Yeah. And then when the Soviet Union fell, Ukraine was like, no, this is Ukraine. And they're like,
yeah, this is still Ukraine.
Wait, hold on. I'm with them. I'm with that guy.
Especially after, you know, in 2014, when like our government, you know, basically made their little coup attempt in Ukraine and it worked.
Yes.
And we instilled basically like this
Western value,
this is the
fucking
thing,
non-Russian Orthodox fucking religion.
Yeah. This is the thing, dude. America can point out like we'll hear everyone today being like, oh yeah, Trump is Russians or Putin's puppet. And that's what like a lot of people still believe. Like that's
they legitimately believe it. Like
they
with
believe
everything
that
in
Putin,
their body.
Yes, and it was a complete lie. And this is why this works so well, because now they can just stamp Russia and Trump together, and especially something like this.
And especially with Trump saying
perfect.
He understands why Putin is doing it.
But while America is like making that lie up, the Democratic Party and the elites, while that lie is being drummed up, they are actually puppets of Ukrainian citizens, or not puppet, they are actually masters.
They're being the
these
puppet master
of Ukraine, which has actual Russian people. So when they say that like their government is a puppet of another foreign country, they're not fucking lying. And they can be mad about that. And it's like, oh my God, just like our country is mad, but it's a complete lie. It's a complete lie here, but it's actually happening, and we're doing it to some other country in the world.
Yeah, it's like the total like sleight of hand, dude. It's constant. And the United States is fucking good at it. And it pisses me off, honestly, because then you say shit like this and they're like, you're not Ukrainian, you don't understand what's going on there. And it's like, bro, you're not fucking Ukrainian. You're fucking Sally from goddamn LA. Like, get the fuck off my dick. At least I try and pay attention, and I don't ask people. Like, I go out of my way to find information as much as possible. Does some of it affirm my already hard stood beliefs? Absolutely, but not all of it. And I let things that I don't believe in change my idea about it. And that's where I like, at the beginning of this, we were like, yo, let's go Russia. Let's go Russia. Let's go Russia. and then like literally after I saw a video of the fucking planes airstriking 2 houses down from a child screaming and a mom like yelling at her child to get down, and I was like, fuck, I don't like this. Like, let's go Ukraine. Let's go Ukraine.
Dude, there's been some like serious like heroic moments for the Ukrainian military that are kind of
all propaganda. I don't believe it.
Okay, I don't know.
It's all state propaganda.
It probably is, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's like damn good. It's damn good. There's two in particular that, well, there's all three of them, the three big ones, the big
I don't
three.
know, I just know two.
Well, all right, so there's the Ghost of Kiev.
Yes, the Ghost of Kiev.
That's fucking badass. If that's the first ace fighter pilot that's just murking down goddamn I don't even
Yeah.
Su-26s or whatever the fucking Russians have. I don't even know fucking airplanes like that. I wish we should have had Jared on so he could, well, no, then it would be too much about what each fucking thing is. Never mind. That's a bad idea. He talks too much about the weapon and not enough about what's happening. And they're using, some shitty fucking version of whatever the United States gave them 30 years ago, the Ukrainians. And if he shot down 6 Russian fighter pilots, what a fucking savage. And being called the Ghost of Kiev, what a badass name. What a fucking sick ass name. Like, even if it's more than one person and they're getting, like, one person's getting credit for it, who gives a shit? You guys are fucking dope because it's just badass. It's like you're not expected to win this.
Yeah.
And you're taking down pilots, so this one's dope.
Yeah, like it's an honest fact too that, like, at the same time that, like, the eastern side is kind of more Russian, so like that part all of a sudden that's more rational. We can actually understand why the Russians are coming in, like that's way more understandable.
But the western side,
but then when he starts getting closer and closer to the eastern side, it's like, I mean, I understand, but now it's getting like those guys don't like you. Side
the western side of Ukraine does not like.
Oh yeah, the western side. Sorry.
The western side. The eastern side likes him, but the western side, they're not going to be too happy about that. Like, and understandably so. Understandably so after the Soviet Union. Like, I get it. And fuck, I mean, the Ukraine has been,
maybe they do want to be more like America. Like, like maybe they actually do.
I'm telling you right now, it's not that great, but if that's what you want. But at the same time,
you want your daughter to grow up trans, like,
well, cool. And that was one of the crazy things that Putin says. He's like, they're pushing their ideals onto you and onto us. And if you want to live in that world, that's not a world that we want to be a part of. And I was just like, that's kind of savage. It's kind of fucking savage. And I understand. I mean, he's saying the exact same things that Republicans have been saying the last 12 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not anything different. And he's a communist. Like, he's the best of both worlds for fucking the majority of the United States. But then, all right, so then the other fucking giant piece of propaganda that's incredibly badass, if it's true, Snake Island. If those guys were just 12 dudes sitting on a fucking island and a Russian, warship came up to them and was like, hey, you guys need to lay down your arms and, surrender. And they were like, should I tell them to go fuck themselves? And they were like, I don't know. And he's like, go fuck yourselves. And if they all died, that's incredibly sad, but also incredibly fucking badass. And like, you guys will live on, and like, obviously they're not gonna fucking hear this, but
they won't live on.
They won't live on, but in infamy, they will live on. Like, dude, that is if that is fucking true, and it wasn't just a recording of some fucking people made of a picture of the island, and it was an actual recording, like, holy shit, balls of goddamn steel.
What if the other 12 were like, wait, what'd you say?
Dude, shut the fuck up.
They're like, bro, I got kids.
No. I wasn't ready. They had the white flag and were walking out. They didn't even know he was on the radio. It was just like some dumb boot that was like, hey, watch this. Go fuck yourselves.
Like, bro.
And then it was like, well, and then like you can clearly hear a woman in the background. And then there was like some report that it was like half the people there were women. And it's like, yo, why'd the Ukrainian military just like, yeah, we're gonna leave those 12 out there on the island? Like, you're just gonna, what are they gonna do? You're just gonna leave them on the fucking island, bro? Like, the Russians are coming, bro. Like, you're just gonna leave them on the island what are they gonna do? They're gonna slow them down. Like, what is this?
Dude,
I just don't get it. I don't get it. And that's why I think it's propaganda, but badass piece of propaganda. Would 10 out of 10 recommend, because it's badass. It's fucking cool. I shared the Snake Island fucking picture.
Those are the type of stories that made us like join the military.
Oh yeah.
Like hearing stories like that.
Yeah.
And it
go
was
fuck
like,
yourself.
Yeah. It was like stories like that. I mean, that was always what was like crazy about the war on terror, because like you would get to watch, I mean, the Marine Corps, they would like teach us like the most like crazy scenarios unimaginable.
What was the first sergeant's name? He came and talked to us in 29. Kelly, first sergeant? No, maybe it was Kelly. I don't remember. The first sergeant that it's the picture everybody knows about Helmand, not Helmand province, but fuck, what's the big ass battle? God, I'm already
Fallujah?
Yeah, Fallujah. And he's getting carried backwards out of out of an area,
what you're talking about.
And he's bleeding down the side of his shit, and he's got his pistol in his hand. And the story is, and I tend to believe it. I met this guy in real life, and pretty badass, but also a giant fucking cocksucker of the Marine Corps. Did not like him. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend. But badass motherfucker regardless. The story is like, they were clearing a fucking building, and 2 of his guys went down or some shit like that. And then he ran in there, or he was already in there. He took a couple down hand to hand because that's how close he was or some shit like that. He didn't get his gun up in time, or I don't remember. And then he ended up getting like another kill or something like that, killed another dude with his rifle. And then his rifle, he didn't have his rifle anymore. I don't quite remember the story completely, but all I remember is at the end of it, he was wounded, fucking people up with his goddamn service pistol. And then they went back in and grabbed him and got him out of there. And he was bleeding, getting dragged out, still trying to shoot motherfuckers with a service pistol as he was getting dragged, which is completely badass. And one of the reasons he joined the military. So Snake Island people, the Ukrainians are like, yeah, give me a fucking rifle.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I don't know about this one, but like the Ukrainians like made it to where if you're 18 to 50, you're not.
That's actually true.
You're not allowed to leave the country. I mean, I don't know how well they're enforcing that, but but at the same time, that's pretty like kind of insane. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong, there is like, it's always like I've seen stories like that where there's people that don't really want to fight. And then but the only ones I see on like news are the ones where it's like this 70-year-old man is coming back to fight. And it's like, okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably true. Like there's probably some 7-year-olds like, I'm gonna go fight and protect my grandkids or whatever. But at the same time, it's like,
what the fuck's this guy gonna do?
We want to pretend that like Ukraine is not an evil government. Like right now, in all the propaganda, they're trying to make it seem like Ukraine is this innocent country. They're being terrorized. I mean, and they are, but at the same time, they've also like locked up their journalists that go against them. They've I mean, they've done, I don't know, there's some other things that I've heard.
They have a whole division of their military that's literal white supremacist Nazis. That's actually it's still there. It's still a part of the Ukraine military.
Yeah, they were one of the factions they helped fund that was trying to take a coup in Ukraine in 2014.
Yep.
And dude, so when Russia said that they were neo-Nazis, at first it was funny because I was like, oh, funny. he's taking the left, like the left's argument being like, these are Nazis. But it's actually true.
Yeah, they're actual Nazis.
It's like, no, they're actual fucking Nazis, dude. But now when you hear that, you think it's exaggerated because of how much the left used that term over and over and over.
Yeah. Well, and then the third guy that is a badass for the Ukraine, the guy that couldn't get out in time after setting detonations on a bridge to stop the coming Russian force.
Oh yeah.
That he was like, I'm not going to make it out in time to detonate from remote area. So I'm just going to detonate it with myself on the bridge. Like, what a savage. If that's fucking true, what a goddamn war hero, dude. Like, those are people that forever and ever people will go and join the military because they want to be.
Yeah.
It's like Kyle Carpenter jumping on a fucking grenade when the people around him was like, he didn't have to jump on that grenade. Like,
I don't know.
We don't know why he did that. He didn't have to jump on the grenade.
That's always a rumor that I've heard. I've never had.
It's so funny. I hope it's true. It would make the story so much better. It's just like a Marine Corps, and then he just jumps on a fucking grenade, and everybody's like, "Bro, like it was nowhere. You had to run 30 yards for that. We were way back there.
We did not need, dude. One day we'll get Kyle Carpenter on.
We're like, bro, hey, were you drunk? Were you drunk? You were drunk, weren't you? I know about your DUIs. You were drunk, weren't you? You were drunk.
Yeah.
You drunk ass bitch. You little Lance Corporal Carpenter. You know, like I just, it's horribly sad for the people of Ukraine, and it's honestly horribly sad for the people of Russia, because the amount of people that are going to die from these sanctions are going to be too much to know. And then that was the crazy part. Germany and France acting a little sus over there. They're like, the sanctions are too strong. Maybe they know, because the sanctions that have been put against
Germany
them in the
and
past.
Italy. I was wrong the
Italy?
first time. It was Germany and Italy, and that what's made it more suspicious.
Yeah. But and maybe they know from history that, like, hey, when you put sanctions on people, you create a giant nation that wants to kill everybody else just because they said so. I mean, look at Germany and fucking after World War I. Like, that's exactly what happened. And crazy sanctions that they could never get out of, and extreme economic despair. And that led to the rise of the Nazis. Like, that's
you gotta think Europe is getting a little freaked out right now.
Oh, they better, like, shit. We're sitting here talking about it like World War III is gonna come, and we already know that it's not gonna be fought on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
So they're next to it all.
Yeah.
And then the NATO force, the first ever NATO force.
And those people like there should remember that, like, they were the ones that were fucked up last time from this.
Yeah.
like big. It wasn't us, bro. I mean, we got like Pearl Harbor. Like, most people don't even, like, when people were like Pearl Harbor was hit, they're like, where the fuck's that?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, and now
ask somebody in Italy what Pearl Harbor is. They're gonna be like, I don't know. Do you scuba dive there?
For some reason, I feel like
the
other countries
knows more.
Well, the other countries know more about like
United
America
States history
then like I remember, I know the Canadians,
at least their war history.
I know the Canadians that I've talked to, like, I've learned nothing about Canada when I was in high school, like nothing at
Literally
all.
Zero. Like, I almost don't know anything. All I remember from high school, or like just any kind of schooling about Canada, was that a lot of it was French. Like, that's all I remember.
Yeah, dude, the only thing I remember was just when they would say the War of 1812.
Yeah.
And then they burned down the White House, and I was like, those
very
motherfuckers.
Very uncool, Canada.
Yeah,
very
what the hell,
uncool.
Canada? When we were okay with that?
And it's like 2022, where, can you do it again? You want to come on down the border and do it again? Goddamn snow Mexicans.
But they would, when I would talk to them when I was growing up, they would like know like some stuff about the US history, and then I'd be like, wait, how do you know that? Why do you care? Like, I don't give a shit about your country. And they're like, oh, I don't know. And then I remember asking them something because I knew nothing about Canada. They're like, yes, we have like presidents, or yes, we have
cash money.
Yes, we have cash money or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I knew nothing about Canada.
Dude, and this is why the US public education system is garbage. Like, we don't learn anything about, or actually it's not garbage. It does exactly what it's supposed to.
That could be it. Actually, because I don't know, man. And you know, like, at least like I could kind of understand this, like, everyone's rage against like the Soviet Union, because like communism was really bad. Yeah. Like, I understand that is way more logical thinking, like why that was a threat, and like, hey, they're taking over countries. Like I can wrap my head around that a lot easier. It's like they could take over the world or whatever. But like Russia, dude, this is like a much smaller, I mean, they're the largest country in the world, I think, but they're just not an economic powerhouse as people
Well, I think
they let them on to be.
I think people are thinking China jumps in. I think a lot of people think China is, well, I mean, fucking Biden thought China was on our side for some goddamn reason, was like, hey, do you guys know what Russia's doing? You should tell them to stop. And he was like, yeah, we're not going to get involved. Like,
there's that
maybe
article.
Yeah, maybe they're not going to get involved at all, but like a lot of people think that maybe China's economically bankrolling Russia doing this shit. And maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I have no fucking idea. I don't think there's any hard proof of that currently. But like that would be a wild thing. I think I sent to you, I was like, what did fucking China do during World War II? Did they just get raw dogged by the Japanese? Like, and then they were just like, you can take the southern provinces, like we don't give a shit. Because I don't remember hearing a goddamn thing about China during World War II, except that the Japanese like invaded half their nation.
Yeah, well, I mean, fucking Japan was like taking over everywhere over there in Asia. They were dominating. And I mean, that was something else too. Didn't really learn too much about like, the only thing it starts is like, it all started for us.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. And then it was like, why did Japan bomb us? And it was like, because we embargoed their oil. And like, when you're a kid, you're like, they got pissed off. That's kind of intense, bro. Like, hey, and so, but they don't go really into deep before that. It was just like Pearl Harbor, America enters the war. It's like, dude, the war was going on for a long time before.
Yeah, dude. I always like, especially growing up, I always thought like we were in it from the start. Like that's like what you think is like you're in it from the start. Like we were a part of World War II. And then you have to memorize the date of Pearl Harbor. I don't even remember it anymore. I know it's in December. I don't remember I think it was 42, right?
I think it was December 7th, 1941, but I could be wrong.
41. I think you're right. It was either 41 or 42. But it's like, see, look, we don't even know our own fucking history. The US school system is trash. But you know, it was just like, when did the war start? And then you learn and you're like, oh shit, like we were like halfway through. Like we were like when it really started, like it was like we were halfway through.
Yeah, dude. And it was
but Russia won the war for the Allies. Okay. Okay. Halfway through, we come in and we win a couple years later. Russia did it. Okay.
Yeah. And fucking and then so like fucking Russia's so much smaller. So it's like they're not an actual, this is what the fucked up part is, like in American foreign policy thinking, because either they knew that if they would provoke Putin like this, he would rash out or something, and they were kind of expecting this, but that means then they also did not care about the Ukrainian people. They were willing to bet their aggressive foreign policy that they could just move NATO in closer and closer. And if it provokes Russia, then why? But they don't really care about the people of Ukraine or Belarus or whatever. Yeah. So it was a win in their situation.
Crimea.
Or they were just got too stupidly aggressive. And that, like, you know, Putin was like, yo, I'm done. And if they didn't see that coming, if they were too stupid to see that actually coming, that's worse than them intentionally do it, in my opinion.
It was
like, this should be expected.
Yeah, it was blissful ignorance or like very extreme treachery, like treacherous aggression. Like it's one or the other. Like there's no way that this was like we had no idea that this would I guess that's the definition of blissful ignorance. But at the same time, it's like, did you see that the first NATO like response force got activated today? Like that's crazy. That's a crazy thing.
What, like, I mean, it's like, wait, NATO. I knew NATO was like an agreement among countries, but I didn't realize NATO had like their own force. I'll be honest. Yeah. This is like a completely new thing. But I was like, holy shit, there's actually like NATO troops.
Yeah. And let's see. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Never knew what it actually stood for, to be honest. Never knew. Did you know?
Yeah, I knew that.
Oh,
Only
I did not
only because I
know
looked it up one day.
that. What NATO force? I don't know how to ask that question. NATO response force activated for the first time. What is that? So NATO Supreme Allied, so it's an allied commander. I love how we're still allies. Like it's the allied, like feels like we're just living in World War II all over again. Like we just never got out of it. Axis and allies. Like I understand why it's the allied forces because we're allied, but the other people are allied too. I don't know. Never mind. So NATO Supreme Allied Commander General Todd Walters activated the multinational force consisting of land, air, sea, and special operations forces from the allies that can deploy quickly in support of the NATO alliance. The activation of the response troops does not mean that any U.S. or NATO troops will go into Ukraine, which is not a member. U.S. President Joe Biden has been clear the U.S. troops are deploying to Eastern Europe to help bolster NATO countries nervous about Russia's aggressive actions, and they will not be fighting in Ukraine. This is a historic moment. This is a quote. This is an historic moment and the very first time the alliance has employed these high readiness forces in a deterrence and defense role. They represent a flexible combat credible force that can be employed in multiple ways, and we are utilizing fully their inherent agility, Walters said in a statement. These deterrence measures are prudent and enhance our speed, responsiveness, and capability to shield and protect the 1 billion citizens we swore to protect. The force has not yet deployed, but is on standby. It is not clear how many troops the response force will contain. So I don't even like, how do you get, I bet you it's just like, hey, 3-4, you're going to go be goddamn part of NATO now. And it's like, well, we just have the highest rate of suicides in our battalion for the last 3 years. Are you sure you want us to go? And they're like, yeah, you guys are going to kill yourselves off anyways. Go fight with NATO. Like, I bet you, like, we don't have like NATO forces. Like, it's not like a force that's just been ready to go. It's just like, it's not a standalone army. It's just,
it's just American forces.
Yeah, no, it probably is. It probably is. It's just America doing everything else. We just do it under the guise of, the rest of the world is doing it with us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of these countries get weapons and money and like training because there are NATO allies. And like we've heard about it all the time, how you can go here and train with this military. And like we heard guys talk about it all the time. So it's like they're just basically little, like, I mean, I'm sure their forces aren't as good as ours because America's been pretty good at war for a while now, but they're pretty much like their little cousin or little sister, and so they know everything or do everything the same way America does, especially military wise.
Yeah, so I don't know. The whole thing is fucking insane, and you're pro Russia now, aren't you? That's what I saw in the group chat.
There's actually, like, it's so weird being in Twitter and you could see like Russian tweets or people that are pro Russia stuff, because sometimes it comes to your timeline and you're like, I can actually watch like it's almost like propaganda or like that the other side is saying, and you're like, well, if that's how Russia sees things, I kind of get it. Like, it's not that I am endorsing their actions or anything, but I don't know, you can like interacting with people that actually like are from these countries, or just maybe just seeing their messaging, you can see it sometimes and you're like, man, these people like really, this person really likes Putin.
Yeah. They're like all about him. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but like that's, you don't get that perspective in the news, really. Like they never would ever portray Putin in any sort of good light. And it's not to say that he is a good guy. I mean, he's an authoritarian government, but just like ours kind of pretty much is now. And I don't like either governments. I'd rather not have a overarching government like both in Russia or not, but that's not how all the people see it. And there's a lot of people in Russia that do feel threatened by the United States. And if
absolutely.
And we always talk about too is like, if there is a purpose for a state, it is to protect us from war or military aggression. Well, he's in charge of security, for the whole country. And when America keeps getting closer and closer, what is he supposed to do? And when you look at it like that from their perspective, it's like, fuck, man. I'm not saying invading was good, but it's rational.
Yeah. And yeah, it has some merit to it, like at the very least. And like, I think it's kind of what we've talked about before, where it's like preemptive strikes aren't the way to go either. Like, I don't think that's the way to go at all.
Yeah.
And almost any, like, you can't just fucking, like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It's like 9/11, we didn't know exactly who did it right the first day, but within the first 2 weeks, we knew who did it. But just going and attacking Afghanistan didn't make any sense. There was people that did it. There was people to be held accountable for it. Like, you can't just wage war. And then Iraq, it's like, how are you going to go wage war on Iraq just because they have weapons of mass destruction and they could do something? Like, you got to be defensive. Defensive wars are just. And that's why Ukraine, like, I understand. Like, I think if anybody is just in what they're doing right now, it's probably the Ukraine, at least from the people's standpoint. Maybe not the governments, because the governments, and I think that's I think that's the place where it gets cloudy. I think that's the place where it gets cloudy, and why there's so many people on so many different sides of this issue, especially in libertarian spheres or fucking in just everyday people spheres. Like, there's people that are going to be on both sides of this, because you could take any of the United States encroaching into Ukraine as aggression. Like, I honestly believe that you could take that, and that it would have some justification by the Russians to be like, no, that is aggression. You are avidly putting nuclear warheads on my border and pointing them towards me. Like, I think that's aggressive. I think that's an aggression, a sign of aggression. Yeah. But at the same time, I also see, how can you judge the whole population off of the government? And I think that's a very difficult, and I think that's where it gets gray, is we're removed. Like, these people get away with it because they can't be held accountable. You know what I mean? And it's not because they can't be held accountable because they're government officials. It's because the people that die for these things aren't the people that are making the decisions whatsoever. And they haven't been able to make the decisions for a long time. The Ukrainian people didn't overthrow the government in 2014. The United States backed a rebel force that overthrew the government in 2014. The Russian people, there was a video last week that I saw that was like, there was a group that walks around. They did it in China during the Olympics. And it's like, they ask in like the native language, like, what do you think about the United States and their views on what's happening? Or what do you think about China and the views on what's happening in China right now? And then they went to Russia during this whole thing. I think it was last week. And they were like, what do you think about what's going on between Ukraine and Russia right now? And normal everyday people walking around Moscow that look very similar to just you and me, hyper colored fucking t-shirts and Carhartt beanies and, fucking Ugg boot wearing Moscowians. I don't know what you want to fucking call them, but whatever they are, they look like normal everyday people. They're not these hardened fucking Russian underground gangster thugs. They're just like, I think it's going to be de-escalated. Last week, I think it's going to be de-escalated. We don't want any war with the Ukrainians. And it was 15, 20, and who knows how many people they actually talk to. But half those people don't want fucking war. Most of the people in the goddamn world do not want war, because the only people it touches is the people that don't get to make the decision.
Yeah. And that's really annoying, is like, you see a lot of people that are critical of like Putin for invading, like the corporate press types, right, the hawks and stuff, like when them up there, like those people are critical of Putin for invading Ukraine. Those people that orchestrated all the war on terror that we have, those ones, like those guys specifically that are like in critical, that are responsible for invading Afghanistan, invading Iraq and all that, are telling Putin that he can't invade Ukraine. And it's like, not to say that, yeah, it makes no sense at all. And it's like, how can you have the right to say that? Like, we invaded like 7 countries. How are you sitting up there saying that Russia can't invade like one country after you got like 7? So it's like, man, Americans, why would Russia or anyone over there want to listen to any Americans' grievances when it's like, bro, like, you guys,
what have you been doing?
What have you been doing, dude? Like, are you serious? And I mean, in Syria, on the side of Assad, Russia there was backing him and fighting off ISIS. And America was there
United States fucking gave ISIS fucking weapons.
Yes, and was giving ISIS and Al Qaeda fighters weapons and money to go and fight Assad and the Russians. And it's like, dude, America backed our own terrorist group that bombed our country, and we gave them money and guns to go fight for us. And then, like, what grounds does the American foreign policy establishment have anything to say about like any war crime that Putin does? Like, they are way worse. I mean, dude, everyone's freaking out about Ukraine, and rightfully so. It's brand new. It's kind of a big deal, especially when it's a nuclear power. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, these people that are like, oh my God, the Ukrainian people, and feel so sorry for them, at least pretending that they are. They never gave a shit about the people in Yemen.
They still don't give a shit about the people in Yemen. There was 37 airstrikes in a 48-hour period. 48-hour period. During the same time that the Ukraine shit was going on a populace that is largely not able to even fight back.
Yeah.
At least the Ukrainians have some way to fight back. At least they have some formal military to fight back. Their government's giving them rifles in the streets. But Yemen, it's been starved for the last, 6 years?
Yeah, like 6 or 7 or something. I think you're right.
It's like upwards of 1 million at this point that have died from fucking regular diseases, because they can't, like, not regular diseases, but normal, like, ass diseases, cholera, things, very treatable diseases is the correct word, very treatable diseases, because they can't get any kind of foreign aid. And the US is backing the people that are doing it to them. And we're going to sit here and armchair quarterback the fucking Ukraine-Russian conflict?
Yeah,
what is this?
Of course, Russia's grounds.
No grounds whatsoever. And of course, Russia is going to use that directly against us. And they have, and they've done it phenomenally. Putin's speech was a phenomenal speech against the United States and the Western European countries. It's honestly one of the better ones out there. And it lays out the hypocrisy of what these countries do. And I was listening earlier to, what's her name? The speaker, one of the speakers from the Ukraine. Let me see if I can pull up the video real quick. I won't play it, but I'm not going to be able to find it. But she had like a little meltdown, I guess. I didn't get to that part of it. But at the same time, like, everything that she was saying at the beginning of it, it came out, I don't know. I think this morning when I was listening to it, it came out 7 hours before me. So like 11 o'clock our time, and it was her giving a speech on it. And she was just like, how can they give us how can the Western European countries or the Western democracies give us any shit for what we're doing when they've done this, and just listed shit off. And it's like, it's fucking true. Like, I don't agree with it. I think it's a very crazy time period that we're going to be living through because of what's happening in between Ukraine and Russia. But at the same time, it's like, there's a certain aspect that you can fucking understand. And I think they're just calling out they're calling hypocrisy where it lays. They're just like, stop being a hypocrite. We're going to do it. And they are also being hypocrites, saying, well, you can do it, I can do it too. And then also calling the saying that they're a freer state and this, that, or the other. Like, don't get me wrong, they're being hypocrites too. And I fully will back you in that. I completely agree. But like, they're not wrong. They're hypocrites too, but so are we. So is the United States government. So like, what are you going to say to that? And people will give justification.
Yeah, man. It's a shit show. And it kind of like brought like things in a little bit more like perspective, because like nuclear destruction was always kind of a joke. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it's just like, that is possible. Like, that is a very possible outcome. And I don't think that if we are dealing with another country that has that capability, maybe we should be a little more cautious, or at least, I don't know, hear them out. Like, just hear them out, hear what they have to say. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to be asking, especially when you're trying to avoid nuclear destruction. Like, like that's
mutually assured nuclear destruction. Like, let's just take a chill pill and figure this out. And chill. Like, let's just chill a little bit, because it's a little too real. And the possibility is, and like I said, we're probably overreacting in the first week. We're probably overreacting in the first week. Let's see how the talks go, because there's going to be talks.
Well,
let's see how all this is going. But at the same time, it's just a crazy fucking time period. If you imagine what we've gone through the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking
the last year.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years have been kind of crazy with like the government just locked us down. We have a pandemic. We all got to wear masks. Oh yeah, we're going to go to World War III now too. And it's like, whoa, slow down. One catastrophe at a time, please.
The economy is collapsing. The US dollar has no value.
Yeah. And but the thing is like, two, that we backed Ukraine. We kind of made promises with them. We were buddy with the Ukrainian people. We threw them high and dry. Like, Russia invaded, and I'm not saying that the Americans will get involved, but I mean, they were getting like, they were leaning on us. They like, their government was a puppet, but their people were kind of like, okay, let's be friends with America. They'll help us out. They'll help us. And then they're just like, well, we got a senile dude that's our president right now. It's not a good time.
He's a puppet himself.
Our poll numbers are doing pretty low. I don't know if we can add a war on top of that yet. So we're gonna set this one out, Ukraine.
Well, but that's my other thing, is like, a large portion of our population sees it as Russian aggression, and it might be the thing to flip around the poll numbers, depending on how. And everybody's calling for sanctions. Everybody's like, at the very minimum, the US should do sanctions. Like, I feel like a large portion of our population, and it's like, that's almost worse than war. And honestly, sanctions are just a precursor to war. Like, let's be honest.
I mean, yeah, sanctions are an act of war. I mean, we're sanctioning the hell out of Yemen, like, to the max.
That's a complete blockade. The fucking extermination of the Yemeni people.
Yeah, we're completely economically shutting them out. We're starving this people in this country. Like, you start trying to sanction Russia, I mean, they start going to some economic downturn. They're like, whoa, they gotta go to war or something. Position. Yeah, it just makes them hate you more. They despise you.
I said that the other day, and I was like, we've seen how sanctions have worked out in the past. And they're like, yeah, but people didn't live stream it from their cell phones. The people of Moscow or the people of Russia will protest and rise up against their government. And I was like, yeah, we've seen how well that has worked out in history. And that was their argument, was, well, people didn't live stream it from their cell phones. And it's like, do you think they're going to care? You think they're going to let them live stream it? They'll just shut down the internet. It's Russia. They're not going to care. There's already like crazy outages in the Ukraine. You think Russia banned Pornhub this week? Like, what do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna say
Russia, or is that Pornhub?
No, it was actually Russia. Like, Russians were tweeting it. I saw it. It was pretty funny. But it's like they're not gonna let shit get out of fucking Russia. They're just gonna, all right, no more cell service. Like, fuck you guys. Like, They don't give a shit. Like, and that's why they're hypocrites too. But the Ukraine will do the same thing. And I don't know if the Ukraine is doing it right now, but for the amount of people that have cell phones and the amount of aggression that we've heard coming from Russians, I feel like we should have a lot more video evidence of what's going on. And I'm not saying that we don't have any. We probably have more than any other conflict ever that's happened in the history of the in the history of the world. We probably have more than that. But fuck, you watch a street fight and you get 7 different angles. Yeah. There's live feeds in Kiev and fucking and Belarus and Crimea and fucking all these other places, and you don't see shit. Like, all right, you see a couple fucking airstrikes, and I'm not saying it's like to downplay it as in a couple, but the amount that is being reported on compared to the amount that's being shown is absolutely, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So it's like, you don't think, like, people aren't just gonna sanction Russia. The only people that are going to be hurt in any way are the people of Russia that already didn't have the choice to go to war or not go to war. They haven't been able to pick their goddamn leader for the last 70 years. Probably longer than that. If you think about it, it was, what was it? Lenin, Stalin, and Gorbachev, and maybe there was somebody else.
There was a couple in between.
Yeah, there was a couple in between there. But
I don't remember
who was after Stalin.
Long.
Yeah, they weren't in. Yeah, it like went through like a couple, like very successively, like boom, 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 boom. It was like 4 or 5 years per person, and then like 1 year per one. And then it was, but the main ones, it's Stalin or Lenin, Stalin, a couple randoms, and then Gorbachev, Putin, and that's it. That's all you got. They haven't been able to vote. They don't get a choice in this. But guess who you're gonna fuck up by sanctioning the fuck out of Russia? Those people. And guess what they're gonna do? Eventually, the only people that are going to be feeding them is going to be the Russian government. And they're going to be like, well, at least they're feeding us, so I know who I'm going to be with. Like, that's all it's going to do. They're not going to rise up and protest and overthrow the government.
You know, this was something I was thinking about too, where, like, you know, Germany and Russia have that oil pipeline, and everyone's like getting mad because Germany doesn't want to like sanction Russia that much. And it's like, okay, but that's a big problem for Germany, because their oil resources and energy resources, a lot of it come from Russia. Yeah. And people are like, wow, Germany's holding out. They're really upset at them. And it's like, bro, maybe they don't want to shut off their power for their people. Maybe that would be something.
They don't want the Third Reich to rise again. Like,
like, what do you mean? They don't want to piss off their people. And at the same time too, it's like, this is a good thing that we have two countries that are economically connected and kind of dependent on each other, because then the risk for them to do these steps, because sanctions an act of war, to go to war with each other, then it makes it harder. And people are like, oh no, like this is why we need to be energy independent. And like, that's what I'm seeing a lot of like conservatives talking, like energy independent.
And I agree. I think we should work towards that. I absolutely agree. But guess what? The reality is we're not right now. So let's try to not start World War III.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. I don't know. I don't think that's a lot to ask for, dude.
I feel like that's pretty fucking, like, I feel like it's not too hard to not start World War III. I feel like it's pretty easy to not start World War III.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier than people make it out to be.
Yeah, like I want to move to 4 seasons at one point. I don't want an eternal winter.
Yeah, dude. Phoenix would suck if it was, because then
there's nothing here.
Yeah.
I can't even get firewood. There's no trees.
Yep. Like everywhere outside Phoenix looks like it's already been nuked. So
exactly. We live in a desert, and fucking sand is like 90% glass or some shit. Like, just like, come on, man. Like, let me get out of here. I got like 7. I showed you my draft. I was like, I'm set for 2023 and 2024 in my dynasty league. I got like 7 first-round picks in the next 2 years. Let me get to that. I need to get to that. Let me have this, man. Let me have this. Oh shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be a wild ride, man. Maybe next week we get somebody else on and we can fucking bullshit around with it and have a little bit more fun with it. But this week I was in between of like, this is funny, and then like it was like I'm laughing because I feel like we're going to die.
Yeah. It's just like, oh my God, dude, what's going on? And it was really cool too. And after I thought about it for a little bit, I actually thought it was cool. But there were some people around here that actually believed that this whole Russia invasion was made up, that it was fake.
Oh, that it didn't happen?
Yeah, and I was just like, in my mind at first was like, well, obviously it happened. Like, there's no denying that. But then their logic was like, well, that's what the news talks about, and like, I don't listen to anything on there anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. It was like, I'd actually prefer that there's people, because like, everyone used to go around and say like Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. That was like garbage fed from the media to the people, and that propaganda stuck. Now this time I'm hearing people that are like, well, I don't even think the invasion was real because it was on the news. And it's like, oh no.
Well, it's like that fucking bell curve, that meme, that bell curve where it's like the Neanderthal, and it's like, I didn't even believe the Ukraine thing was real. And it's like the Neanderthal, and then the other side is like, we shouldn't care about the Ukraine. We need to focus on us. And it's like the intelligent scholar. And then it's like the middle, like that's really high. And it's like, we need to protect the Ukraine against the Russians or else they're going to kill us all. It's like the very high bell curve in the middle. Like, that's what it is, bro. I need to make that meme now. I need to make it before this episode comes out.
Yeah, you do.
Dude, that's what it is. It's like, I don't even, and so we shouldn't invade because it's not even real. And then the other side's like, we shouldn't invade because it could cause World War III. And they're like intelligent and, whatever. Yeah. And then there's the fucking dumbasses in the middle that fuck up the whole bell curve. That's what it is. That's what it is right now.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's hilarious. I'm thoroughly enjoying the people that are just like, fuck the corpo media. I honestly, it's good. I wish they would at least go outside the norm and look for other media sources, to be honest, because it's very frustrating, like talking to people when it's
all the older people, like Gen Xers and like boomers. I swear they all get their information from Facebook.
Dude, I'm pretty sure all the people, all the techs at my work, like I've worked with separate techs every day this week. And they're like, what do you think about Ukraine and Russia? Every single one, dude. And I'm just like, fuck, man.
It's not good, bro.
It's not. And maybe we're overreacting because I think, and we'll kind of
fresh. It's
draw it down here. It's fresh. It's right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like this could become the status quo.
Yeah,
like
it could become the status quo where it's, whatever. But it's kind of like when Soleimani was bombed by Trump, and it was like they're literally playing with a World War III. And I honestly believe they were playing with a World War III. And if aggression kept going, it would have created that. But it backed off greatly. And Reed said it on our show last week, where he was like, maybe it was due to Rand Paul talking to Trump on that phone call after making the decision to bomb Soleimani. And he backed him off, like going into an all full out war against fucking Iran. Maybe it was. Maybe we barely missed it then. And now it's coming back to bite us in the fucking ass. But, it's just one of those things where it's obviously tensions are high. You're seeing live footage of people being burnt in the streets. You're seeing live footage of families being bombed, and then you're seeing Ukrainian families being bombed and Russian soldiers that some of them probably don't even know they're in the Ukraine being burned alive. So there's going to be high strung feelings all the way around, and maybe we're blowing it out of proportion, and hopefully we are, honestly, to me, like hopefully we are blowing it out of proportion, and these peace talks go through or these surrender talks go through, whatever they want to fucking call them. And it's, hey, we get the eastern side of Ukraine back, and you guys keep the western side of Ukraine, and we go about our business day to day, and we don't hear shit about it for another 20 years. Hopefully that's what it is. But it's just, when you see the ramifications and you run a podcast, I want the clickbait. So
yeah, that's why.
And I
that's
think
why I'm
I think
freaking out.
I think you and I just get in our heads too, because we're like, what are the actual ramifications for a 20-year timeline on a UK Russian invasion and the US backing the Ukraine and China backing Russia? And then you sit about that lying awake at night till 3 a.m. And it's like nuclear war, mutually assured destruction. That's the only
it's
outcome.
definitely, well, it's definitely like something that's like on the table, because like, I mean, I don't know if I remember before in history that like two nuclear powers do go head to head.
Yeah,
and it's not
besides
to
the
say
Cold
like
War.
Yeah, like, and luckily there was like proxy wars here and there, but it wasn't like a full-on conventional war,
And they're moving fucking tanks
yeah.
next to Poland. Don't
think,
invade Poland, dude. Don't invade Poland. Don't invade Finland or Norway or none of these bitches. Like, don't invade them, because Finland will fuck you up. They've done it once before. Norway fucked you up too. So Russia, you better be careful about going to those countries. It's like invading Russia in the winter. You don't do it.
Yeah. I just think this is gonna, mellow out. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we're all gonna die.
And it sounds bad too, because like mellowing out is like, well, fucking 7,000 people just died in Ukraine between the Ukrainians and the Russians. And it's like, I get it. It's incredibly sad. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. Like war, you shared the meme on our stuff today, and it was, it's that scene from MASH. And I think I've brought it up constantly. You brought it up constantly throughout our entire podcast. It's one of the fucking things that made me get out of the military. And he's talking about the difference between war and hell, and how war is ultimately worse than hell, because in hell there's sinners, and in war almost everybody is innocent but the brass that's at the top. And that's basically what it is. Almost everybody is innocent but the brass that's at the top. And that's honestly how I feel, and that's what I believe in. And I just think it's incredibly sad what's going on in the Ukraine and in Russia, and what's happening to both sides in that aspect. And you could argue that one side is the aggressor and the other. And I think that's my only problem with the media that we've seen so far, is it's only Russian. It's only the Russians that are at fault. And it's like, no, actually the people that are saying that we're staying out of this the most are the people that are probably at the most fault, because they've been involved with it from the very beginning. And that's the United States.
Yeah. And two, like, so Biden, a lot of the conservative types are all screaming right now that Biden's too weak. He's too weak. He can't be tough on Putin. And that's a really big talking point on the right now.
Yeah.
And my opinion, it's that Biden has been too aggressive.
Yeah.
Like
I agree with you.
Biden and Obama are basically like the same thing. And they were in the White House together in 2014. And Biden was in charge, or at least he oversaw the Ukraine shit and everything. That's why he has his son that worked there, and or worked with some energy company in Ukraine, like in a very shady way or whatever. And then all of a sudden, all like Ukraine's getting buddy, and they're trying to get them like kind of pushing at least the idea of NATO. It's been floated, and they're doing other things in Belarus. They tried to have a color revolution there, and some other times they're like
Crimea was a crazy fucking time too.
Yeah, but there was just like
Crimea.
The Biden administration is the reason we are in this problem. It's not because he's not doing anything. It's not because he's weak. He's the one that's
doing too much.
He's doing too much. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong. And like, I publicly, like visually of how people see Biden, he does look really weak right now.
Yeah.
He looks like a bumbling fool, and I mean, maybe I think he's not all there all the time, but he's been around. He's surrounded by the people that have been involved in this from the beginning, and it's his administration
from the beginning, even when he was still coherent.
Yeah, his people, everything. They're the ones that started all of this, and I don't know. I think like they're calling him like too weak, and I just hope that doesn't get some sort of like idea in Biden that he needs to be tougher on Russia or something, because I don't think being tougher is going to be a good solution. It needs to be diplomacy needs to come from this.
Yeah. And when the leader of Russia is sitting there calling out the Western idealism and saying that there's not going to be any winners, the person that is aggressing according to the Westerners is saying that there's not going to be any winners and we're okay with that. You need to take a breath and sit there and fucking think about it, because that is a nuclear power, probably the strongest nuclear power besides the United States, because I think they're probably stronger in nuclear power than China. Maybe, I don't know. People probably argue and give me facts that argue that, but at the same time, like, I just think it's a different fucking beast. I think it's a different fucking beast because there's only one that's fighting back like a caged dog right now, and it's definitely not fucking China.
Yeah.
And we just got to be fucking careful. They need to be careful. I keep saying we, and I think it's we because I feel like the American populace has some responsibility to hold for this. We've let shit go on for way too long, and it frustrates me. And I get everybody's a single individual person, but at the same time, it's like we can't keep allowing this to happen. It's what I say when it's like we voted for 4 presidents that have been non-interventionists over the last 4 presidents. Immediately, the last 4 presidents. I don't really remember what Clinton's shit was, but the last 4 presidents at the very minimum have been non-interventionist, and all they have done is continue to intervene in other places and bring death and destruction to other countries that do not follow what the United States says. And it's at some point it gets laid at our own feet, and it's going to come back to bite us in the ass. And I think COVID was a part of that.
Yeah. This is the blowback that like Ron Paul talked about. I mean, just the same thing with us meddling in other countries like we did in the Middle East. It caused 9/11.
And it'll look bad for us to not involve ourselves in the Ukraine. It'll look bad for us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'll look horrible for us regardless. Like it'll look horrible for us because we're the ones that created the situation.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's what we said about Iraq. It's what we said about Afghanistan. You have to cut your losses and take the black eye because you deserve it at the very minimum. And you probably deserve more at what the maximum is, but you're going to get away with the black eye. And it's like, just walk away and then try to do everything in your power to create a better society that upholds the actual true American idealism of bringing up the people around you.
Yeah, we're not doing very well on the moral politicians.
Superiority,
Yeah, we have all these politicians that are shady, don't care, and like they're willing to put the Ukrainian people at risk to get their political ends. And
almost okay with it. Like,
basically.
They probably sleep peacefully at night doing it.
Oh yeah. I don't think they lose sleep at all. I think they just think it's part of the job. And they don't care about us or anything. Like all these people freaking out about Ukrainians never, you don't hear them freaking out about Yemen. You don't hear them freaking out about all these other countries. The whole reason you're hearing all these sad stories from the corporate media, and don't get me wrong, this is what they're good at too. This is what's so sinister. It's like they're really good at taking those stories, which are probably true, honest stories, and about these Ukrainians doing some like really inspiring, heartfelt things for their country, for their people, for their family. But the media is just using that. They're just using those, and they use it for evil. They take that good moment, very good moment in history, and they use that shit for evil to convince people that like this is the worst situation ever in the world, but then turn around and scream for a war for Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. I think you nailed it right on the head at the end of the show. So,
well, I hope we don't die, Luke. I hope we have next week.
I hope we get to our southern houses typo.
Yeah, we'll get
plantation homes. That's what I wanted to say. Our plantation homes in the South.
We're gonna build a moat, dude.
Yeah, we're gonna build a fucking moat, and nobody's allowed. Nobody's allowed in.
Oh, not even girls.
Especially not girls.
Especially not girls.
Oh shit. Well, hopefully it turns out like we kind of said it did, where it's like, all right, let's just fucking chill. Hopefully we see some tempering of emotions over the next week. And yeah, I think that's all I got. We'll fucking pick it up next week. Maybe we'll get somebody fun on and try to joke about this the way that we normally do. I think we did a pretty good job today. We had some funny moments, and yeah,
I did my best, guys, to laugh at the face of death for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah. And that's the fucking shit show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We out.